You know what's really fascinating about power and influence in the corporate world? Is that most executives believe that it comes from saying yes to everything, from being the dependable one, from being the go-to authority, the go-to person. But I'm going to show you why that's exactly wrong. You see, the top influential and the most influential leaders that I've worked with, they mastered something different from being the go-to person. They mastered rejection. And what you're going to learn in today's video is that power and influence comes from mastering rejection, not just being rejected, but learning how to give it, how to receive it, and how to learn from it. Let me explain. There are 3 core principles that I want to share with you. And the first core principle is called the rejection paradox. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it the rejection paradox. And here's what the rejection paradox means. It means that every time you say no to something, you are getting closer to the perfect yes. So here's the twist. The reverse is also true. Every time that you say yes to something, you're also simultaneously saying no to hundreds of other opportunities. And that's the paradox, because you might think that you're saying yes to everything. You might say that I want to become the go-to person for everything. But when you say yes to something, you're saying no to other things as well. So you might call that opportunity costs, but I don't see it as a cost at all. I see it as this paradox. And it's important to understand both sides of things, because if I were to explain this to you in a way that you can understand, I'm going to use the example of sales. If you're a sales professional, you want to get to the yes. And there are hundreds of sales novels and sales books that all write about how do you get to the yes? How do you get the client to say yes? How do you get the customer to say yes? But the problem is that in order to get to the yes, well, when you take a sales call, you're not going to always get a yes. There are going to be clients and prospects who say no to you. And if you are trying to get to the yes, the no's get more difficult. I'm sure you've related to this, even if you're not in sales. The more you seek that yes, the more the no's, the rejections, are really difficult to hear, the more emotional they are, and the more we try to avoid them because of how difficult it is to be rejected and hear rejection. So what I say is, well, then flip the script. Instead of seeking for the yes, try to play a game where you are trying to get as many no's as possible in a row. You talk to your first prospect, it's a no. You talk to the second one, it's a no. You got 5 no's, and the 6th one is a yes. Well then, great. Then once you get that yes, you got to restart the game all over again. How many more no's can I get in a row? And so you're looking for the no's instead of the yeses. And this helps you to be more motivated and more grounded in your emotions, and to see both sides of things, that the no is a gift just as much as the yeses are a gift. And that's the paradox of it. Most people say that the yeses are the gift, but the no's are the enemies. The no's are the tragedies, which is not true at all. You got to be able to see the gift in the no. And to see the gift in the no, seek for those as fervently, just as you seek for the yeses. So that's the first core principle, is the rejection paradox. The second core principle is what I'm going to call the power of the strategic no. Most people have a relationship with no where they take it personally. And that's what makes it so difficult, because, well, the thought is, you're not just rejecting my idea, you're rejecting me as a person. You're rejecting my philosophies. You're rejecting everything I've worked so hard to earn, right? So then that's like the depths of taking it personally. But what if I told you that a no is not personal, it is simply data? And data is important because data gives you the real facts of what's working and what's not working, not based on emotion, but based on the realities of the situation and of the circumstances. So if you collect data, the more you collect data, in fact, the person who holds the most data creates the most wealth. Think about it. How much data does Google have? How much data does Facebook have? They have so much data, and that's part of what makes them such valuable organizations. So the more data you can collect with strategic no's, going back to the first core principle we talked about, then what you have is data. So the next time you get rejected by a client, the next time you get rejected by a board member, the next time you get rejected by your senior managers, you don't need to take it personally. take that as a data point and use that data point as leverage to know where to optimize, where to focus your time, and where to make that development. And you're going to notice that the no's become more and more strategic instead of more and more targeting you as an individual. The third core principle here is called the influence formula. So this is my influence formula, and this is really what changed the game for me. I used to struggle with rejection. I used to struggle so hard anytime I heard the word no, because I took it personally, because it really felt like the one who said no to me was rejecting me as a person and rejecting everything that I represent. And it was a very hard pill to swallow. So here's what I learned, and it's not what you might think. The influence formula is this. Your influence is directly proportional to the number of no's you are willing and able to accept, to give, to earn, and to learn from. So it's all of those things. You see, you're not a receptacle of rejection. You also give rejection too. You also say no. So it goes both ways. It's not just one way in your whole life where people just tell you no. People reject your ideas. You've also rejected other people's ideas. You've also said no to other people. So that's the rejections you give. But then take the no as data, because you realize that no is not a stop sign. It's simply GPS coordinating you towards the path towards your success. So then that is the no, the strategic no that you work hard to earn. And then for all the no's you collect along the path, because now you flip the script, those are the no's that you learn from. So what I'm going to give you next are 7 rejections that are the crucial rejections to give, to earn, and to learn from. The first one is this: reject complacency, accept dissatisfaction. You've heard of the term comfort zone. In fact, it's being thrown around a lot on the internet. But have you ever really thought about the comfort zone and what it really means and what effect it has on an individual? When you are inside a comfort zone, it is so familiar, it becomes so automatic, and there's nothing different about the comfort zone. The comfort zone creates a lot of complacency because things feel like, notice I'm emphasizing the word feel, things feel like they're going well, things feel like nothing bad is happening, things feel like they are good and acceptable. But you see, in the comfort zone, growth doesn't happen. It's just a lot of familiarity, and it's just a lot of keeping things status quo. Keeping things by default, doing what I always do, doing things as it always is, it's always like that. So this creates the fertile soil for complacency. So when you reject complacency, the opposite of that is accepting dissatisfaction. So dissatisfaction is not a bad thing. Remember, there's 2 sides of everything. There is a side of dissatisfaction. When I'm dissatisfied, I'm going to be motivated and inspired from within to seek growth, to seek difference, to seek something different other than what I have now in my comfort zone, because I'm not satisfied with the way things are. Things may be good, but I want them to be great. I'm not satisfied with good. Things may be okay, mediocre, okay, not good, but okay. But I'm not willing just to accept okay. I want things to be better. I want things to be great. I want things to be outstanding. So this is accepting dissatisfaction. And a lot of people are so scared of being dissatisfied because a quality of being dissatisfied is discomfort. Make no mistake about it, there's discomfort in dissatisfaction. And another reason why a lot of people are afraid to be dissatisfied is because they're scared about what other people might think of them when they're dissatisfied. But here's what I say. The life that you can live, that you have the potential to create in your future, that is the life that you're going to live. And the sum of the actions that you take, the sum of the thoughts that you embark on are going to create that future. And no one's going to live your life as closely as you do. No one's going to experience your life as closely as you do. So the question you got to ask yourself is, who needs to be an authority in your life? You or someone else? Whose opinion matters more about what you should do in your life? Yours or someone else's? Are you going to let someone else's perception of you dictate how you're going to make decisions for yourself and the future version of who you want to be? Is that your driving? Is that what's going to drive you to make the decisions you're going to make? Someone else's perception of you? Those are the questions that you got to ask yourself out of self-reflection. And there's no judgment about it. Whatever you choose, that's the outcome you're going to get. And it's your choice. They're a series of choices that you make from your empowered self. So that's the first rejection. Reject complacency, accept dissatisfaction. The second one is this: reject ignorance, accept wisdom. Ignorance is a prerequisite to wisdom because when we are aware of our own ignorance in a domain, we seek more knowledge to close the gaps of our ignorance. So it's a prerequisite. But you see, a lot of people don't reject ignorance. They may notice they have gaps in their knowledge. It may have been brought to their attention, but they don't do anything about it. I am impressing upon you to reject ignorance by saying no to being ignorant and taking the steps to develop wisdom. So what is wisdom? Wisdom is nothing more than another word for skill, masterful skill. And when you have a skill where you can do something masterfully, it means it doesn't use your conscious resources. It's just second nature to you. Then you've truly mastered it. When it's something is second nature to you, you have wisdom in that domain. So accept wisdom. But there is a process to achieving wisdom in a domain. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a process to that. The first step in that process is to recognize your own ignorance and reject it. The second step to gaining wisdom is then to be able to learn things that are needed for you to be able to execute on. But when you learn the things that are needed, that's increasing your knowledge base. It doesn't mean you have wisdom. Just because you know a bunch of things doesn't make you wise. So the third step in wisdom is really and genuinely seeking a deep understanding of what you know. Because only when you truly understand what you know, then you can start to apply it. Just because you know a bunch of things, just because you have a big knowledge base, doesn't mean you can apply what you know out in the real world and in real situations. It doesn't mean you know how to apply it. So that's why the level of depth of understanding is important. And then as you apply that understanding over time with more and greater risk in circumstances and situations, then you develop wisdom over time. So accept wisdom, make wisdom your goal and the end goal to your personal growth, and reject ignorance. The third one is this: reject platitudes and accept profundity. So let me make these definitions. What is a platitude? A platitude is a phrase that people say that sounds like it could be wise, but it's really unhelpful and it doesn't mean anything. So let me give you an example of a platitude. An example of a platitude is, all is well that ends well. Or if I said, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Or if I said to you, well, time heals all wounds. Those are platitudes because it sounds like it could be wise. It sounds really nice. It sounds very poetic when I say it. Time heals all wounds, right? It sounds like there's some wisdom that could be from there. But if you are hurting from something that runs really deep and you have deep emotional wounds about it, and you've been suffering in that wounding for a while, and I said to you, time heals all wounds, can you see how it's really unhelpful? Can you see how I said this to you and you don't know what to do with it? What do you mean time heals all wounds? I've been in pain for 2 years. So it's a platitude. So platitudes are like that. They're really unhelpful. They are idealistic. There really isn't substance there. It's just things people say because they've been perpetuated socially or perpetuated on media. So that's a platitude. So reject platitudes and accept profundity. So profundity, the root word of that is profound. Profound means there's a deeper meaning. It means when I'm being profound, when somebody's being profound, it means they have thoroughly thought through what they're going to say, and they've tailored it to you in your situation, and they brought that empathy and that understanding and their wisdom of experience behind it. Then they are saying something profound. So become the person who is profound. profound in your thoughts, profound in your speech, profound in the way you connect with people, profound in the way that you serve other people. Become an individual who is profound by developing wisdom, which we talked about earlier. Wisdom is a prerequisite to being profound. And when you accept that level of profoundness, that is when you can make the real changes in your life, in the way that you show up in different situations, and the way that you build relationships in your life as well. Number 4, the fourth thing to reject. Reject playing it safe, accept transformation. Playing it safe. Well, you might be asking, well, what's the difference between playing it safe and being in the comfort zone? They're very similar, and a lot of times it is overlapping. Here's how it overlaps. Being in the comfort zone, you're more likely to play it safe. But just because you're playing it safe, you might not be in your comfort zone. Make sense? So here's what playing it safe means. Playing it safe means being risk adverse. Is when you are running through all the scenarios, you have a tendency to run through all the different scenarios in your mind, and you can't pull the trigger on a decision that you want to pull the trigger on that decision. But if it has just a little bit of risk, then it's like, well, maybe not. I need to think about that. I need to sleep on it. Maybe not right now. So that's playing it safe. But here's the thing about power and influence. Nobody ever played it safe to their way to become more influential. Not one person ever played it safe to become more powerful in themselves and in their organizations. Playing it safe is not the path to power and influence, if that's what you truly desire. So reject playing it safe and accept transformation. Transformation, the root word is to transform. And you might think, well, is transform the same thing as change? Change is a form of transformation, but transformation is a vector quantity. So what does that mean? A vector quantity is something that has a direction. Change is not a vector quantity. Change just means it's different from the way it used to be. Transformation, there's an intention behind it, which means I know what my before and after, I know what I want it to be. So when I seek a transformation, there's a direction in which I want to change. Is not just change for the sake of change or change for the sake of making a difference. It is intentional. It is planned. It is proactive. So seek transformation, accept transformation. Transformation of self from the inside first. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your philosophies, the way that you see things, your perspectives, that transformation. And when you seek transformation from within, you have transformation from without. Outside of you as well, because success happens from the inside out. So reject playing it safe and accept transformation. We're on number 5. The fifth thing to reject. Reject popularity, accept principles. So what does I mean by that? Popularity, wanting to be liked. So many people want to be liked, and they're so afraid of rejection. They're so afraid of people disagreeing with them that they just don't speak out, because they are trying to avoid being disliked or disagreed or criticized. Stop trying to be liked and start becoming more influential. Start becoming more effective in your transformation. And that requires letting go of needing to be liked. Because the more you need to be liked, the more you're going to conform to other people's way of being. The more you're going to conform to other people's priorities. Because if you need to be liked, then you're going to do some things and say some things to be liked. Instead of doing things and saying things that you really need to say to create a transformation, you're going to be busy doing things and saying things to be liked. And oftentimes, correct me if I'm wrong, oftentimes what you got to say to be liked and what you got to say to make a difference is not the same thing. So reject popularity, because popularity only takes you so far. Being popular is transient. Being popular might make you feel good, but does it really help you to make a difference? Does it really help you to be influential? So reject popularity and accept principles. So what are principles? Principles are the laws that govern the way things work. They're the why behind the strategy. So you think about strategy? Strategy is here, and principles are above strategies. Principles govern why strategies work. So if you understand the principles, you're going to know which strategies are going to work for this situation. So accept principles. Become a principles first thinker. Become a principles first operator. Become somebody who works with principles instead of working against principles. Don't just stop at the strategy level. Think higher level. So this is what they mean by higher level thinking. Critical thinking is a higher level of thinking. What's higher level? It's principles. If tactics are here, strategies are above that, and principles are above that. So the higher level you desire to think, the higher level you desire to be in your organization, the higher level you need to think and learn, which is principles first. We're on the sixth one now. Sixth thing to reject. Reject defensiveness and accept feedback loops. Defensiveness. It's easy to be defensive if my identity is tied to the idea that I want people to accept. If my identity is tied to the idea and someone rejects my idea, then immediately my emotions are going to create the perception that they've rejected me. They see something wrong with me. They don't like me. And then as a result of that, the most common response to that is defensiveness. So what does defensiveness mean? Defensiveness sounds like, I can't believe you don't see it that way. Defensiveness means I'm going to bring all the proof. I'm going to try harder to prove myself. I'm going to try harder to give them all the information, all the data. I'm going to explain myself, to excuse myself. That is what defensiveness sounds like. Reject defensiveness, because from this point forward, you're not going to take it personally anymore. So don't take things personally, because rejection, a no is data. So reject defensiveness and accept feedback loops. What's a feedback loop? You see, your body, your physical body, works well because there are so many feedback loops inside biological systems. Your brain, your physiology, your organs would not function synchronously with each other if the feedback loops weren't working. In fact, a lot of physiological disorders in our individual organs and systems are there because of malfunctioned feedback loops. Your brain needs a way of knowing when something is not working, when it needs to send more help somewhere else in your body, and it does that with feedback loops. Leverage feedback loops. The biological systems are perfect in their design because they have feedback loops. You also had feedback loops working in your favor. You just don't think they're working in your favor because you are bent on rejecting rejection and you're seeking to be liked. So you don't feel that feedback loops are working in your favor. But you got to be able to see how feedback loops are working in your favor, because when you observe a feedback loop of a no, a strategic no, when you take heed to a feedback loop of a obstacle, of a no, then you will see how that is giving you feedback of what needs to transform. It's giving you feedback on which direction where you need to head. It's giving you feedback on the goals that you've set. It's giving you feedback on the mindset that you have, the attitude that you have brought forward, and so on and so forth. Feedback loops are rich with data, important data, and feedback loops are the foundation towards a GPS that guides you towards your path of success. Number 7, the seventh thing to reject. Reject stagnation and accept growth. Growth and stagnation are on the opposite side of the spectrum. But you see, you can't have growth until you first experience stagnation. Reject stagnation. Don't accept it. The only obstacle to growth is when you accept stagnation, when you accept your circumstances, when you just say, for example, that's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I guess I'm just going to have to find a way to put up with it, to deal with it. Well, nothing seems like it's going to change. That is accepting stagnation. That's the kind of beliefs and thoughts that accept stagnation. But you see, you were designed to grow. How do I know this? Because you are an entity with depth, and you're dynamic as an individual. I don't have to know you to know that, because you're human. You're a being. You're more than just one dimension. You're multidimensional. You're complex. You have dynamic. You have a wealth of experiences, and you have a wealth of knowledge in your experiences. So as a result of that, the complexity and the perfection of that which you are, you're valuable. Do you recognize your own value? And as a result of that, you were designed to grow. In fact, growth is programmed within you. What gets in the way are your own thoughts, your beliefs, and the way you see yourself. That's what gets in the way of your growth. But you're designed for growth. So reject stagnation and accept growth, but be clear on what growth means to you. Be clear that you're not confusing stagnation with growth, because sometimes that happens too. And when you accept growth, it means that you know that you're on the path, and that path sometimes does get difficult. Sometimes that path is long, but you are preparing yourself because the path to growth is also paved with rejection. The key to all of this is understanding that rejection isn't something that you just endure. It is an essential ingredient for leadership growth. Just as Barbara Corcoran said, all the great things that happened to me happened on the heels of rejection. So here's my challenge to you. This week, I want you to collect 5 strategic no's. Yes, you heard that right. Go out and seek 5 no's. Get rejected 5 times strategically. And then document what happens as a result of getting that no. Because being on the path to learning from, being able to give, and to be able to receive the no is your path towards power.